Hi guys, welcome back to Barbie Talks. I am your real and raw Barbie. Give you everything real and raw. And today we have a very special guest. We have Desiree Smith. Okay. She's a personal development coach, the founder of the self-love social blueprint. Okay. And of course, the host of Growth on the Rocks podcast, which you can find on Apple and Spotify. She talks about all things love, life. It's really comforting. She's like your bestie from your home that's virtual. But y'all can see exactly what I'm talking about. So without further ado, hi Desiree. Introduce yourself.
Hello, hello. Oh my goodness, Thasia, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. But yeah, like you said, my name is Desiree Simone. I am a personal development coach based in Florida. Don't hold that against me, okay? I was born in Georgia, raised in Maryland. I live in Florida now, so don't judge me. But yeah, I started on this personal development journey years ago. I think kind of like everybody was just trying to figure out my purpose, figure out my calling. And then I realized that the thing that I'm really passionate about is the thing that I'm very naturally good at, which is just being a really good listener and being someone who gives real sound advice. And so that is what I like to do. Like you said, as everyone's bestie, I like to say that I'm always the person that you can call when you're having a breakup or you're thinking about quitting your job or you're worried about coming out to your family or you're wanting to do a big move and you're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I got you. What would you like me to bring? Vodka, wine, tequila. I am on the way. And so that's who I am.
I love that. Sometimes you need a little spice. We also, to clarify, she also has just came off of dry January. So we both are
Woo!
very much, you do not need to
Hallelujah.
have fun before we even get into it. So y'all know the vibe. Um,
Hallelujah.
you can have sober fun, you can have enhanced fun, whatever that means to you, just take that how it resonates. But sometimes you do need a little something to take off the edge because it be stressful.
It is.
Life is a little stressful. And I think, especially when you have that balance between knowing like this is just an unwind, a recreation, not a need, not I have to. That's where it gets jumpy. So we're not talking about that over here, y'all. We're
Yeah,
classy.
and it's really true. And one of the things that I always like to tell people, because anyone who knows me personally and knows the podcast knows that I'm a boozy girl. I'm a former bartender. I'm a former F&B director, so I've managed bars before. And not only that, I like to call myself kind of like a mixologist. I love making cocktails. I love the history behind certain liquors, specifically whiskey and tequila. Those two are literally like my love language. I hosted whiskey flight conversations, whiskey tastings, tequila tastings, things of that nature. I get very nerdy about certain alcohols and their history behind them, especially things like Uncle Nearest, which, if you don't know the history of Uncle Nearest, is an African American distiller who is what basically gave us Jack Daniels to this day,
Come
and
on.
is run by today by Nearest's great granddaughter Victoria, African American woman, and Fawn Weaver, who is the CEO, who has become one of the first female billionaires, especially pulling into the liquor industry. And so her story is just amazing. And so things like that I nerd out over. And so I am very much a lover of all things alcohol, but I also like to tell people I love to have a balance. Always do a sober month every single year. Sometimes I do it several times, whether it's intentional, whether sometimes it's related to my health, because I do have an autoimmune disease. But I also like to tell people that I think what's so beautiful about what can happen in the conversation of sobriety or having alcohol as fun is that nowadays the world of non-alcoholic drinks and mocktails has become so forward pressing, and you have full on bars and restaurants that really explore it. So gone are the days of people feeling like, oh, I'm sober, like I can't really have that conversation. I don't want to make my friends feel awkward. First of all, don't ever feel that way. If you decide to be somebody who's sober, if you decide to be someone who just doesn't want to drink alcohol and you feel like your friends are pressuring you, then those are not the people that you need to be around. I love my friends who are sober. I try very hard if we're going out to find places that offer sober and mocktail options because you do not always have to drink to have a good time. And so I think it's really important, especially in the very young generation like yourselves, to understand that it doesn't have to require Jaeger, tequila, anything like that to have a really good time. And so shout out to the people who decide to be sober and the people who decide to not drink. I will definitely be your sister and make sure you have a really nice mocktail while I'm doing shots of Patron.
I love that because we support and we also do what we want to do as well. I think
True.
also, I'm not even gonna get there. We're gonna get off. Okay. Now, she said two important things in that, y'all. Happy Black History Month.
Lift every voice
Oh,
and sing. Come on now.
come on.
Come on.
Let's get into it. This is one of the reasons why I am so happy to have Desiree on this pod because black lady, black. Okay.
Black, blackity black.
We are so powerful, and connecting with other powerful people really just raises our conscious level, raises the consciousness of just society. So just understand, if you are Black listening to this, enjoy Black History Month because you should. Every day is Black History Month, but definitely enjoy it. You are loved, you are seen, you are heard, you are worthy. Do not let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do. You just heard Jack Daniels. Everybody's sipping on Jack Daniels, but nobody's
But
talking
not
about
everybody's
backstory.
Uncle Nearest. Yeah, y'all need to get on that Uncle Nearest. You all need to
I
get
didn't
on
even
it.
know
You need to
about that.
support Fawn Weaver. You got to support her. She also has an amazing book, Love and Whiskey. You need to get it. You need to buy it. So I was literally just talking to a guest on my podcast who is a big proponent of the Latino, Latinx, and Latina community. Where one of the conversations that we talked about is you've got to pour your attention, but more importantly, your dollars in your community. So it is Black History Month. I know you guys love CoverGirl makeup, but you need to find a Black brand. I know you love your Jack Daniels, but I'm gonna need you to drink Uncle Nearest. So really keep in mind that not just this month, but as often as possible, we need to encourage having those dollars go back to our community.
Yes, and it's the alignment is already crazy, y'all. We haven't even dived into what we are
We
really.
just getting started. I've barely even sipped my
Oh,
cocktail.
wait. Don't even say the cocktail because I'm gonna say this and we're gonna get into our cocktail. We're gonna get
Okay.
to our cocktail of this episode. But y'all, I just said this. We're gonna keep it short and sweet. Pour into Black businesses. Wall Street was founded off of slaves. Point blank, period. There's nothing else that I need to say past that. This system, this society has been built off our backs. It only makes sense to pour back into ourselves. We are constantly pouring into others that are utilizing our dollars to constantly profit while we are struggling. So take that how it resonates. Obviously, do your best. And I think as well, supporting Black businesses always isn't buying a Black brand. If you don't have that money, make sure you're supporting your community. Pour into your younger generation, pour into your family if someone's supporting. Support people. If you know somebody down the street that cook real good, ask them for a plate of food and just slide them a 20. There's so many ways that you can pour back into people. So don't also limit yourself to think it's just Black businesses. It's everything. It's all of us because we are the US.
And again, keep in mind that we have our sisters and our cousins, the Latina community,
Come on.
also the Native American community. I
Mm-hmm.
had Rachel Scott, who was on my podcast. We talked about how the indigenous people look at Thanksgiving, and that was a tea of an episode that I was like, girl, I want to apologize to you. And I sure as hell wasn't here and didn't have nothing to do with it. But being able to support our Native Indigenous brothers and sisters, and then shout out to everyone else who has been supportive of us throughout all these
Yes.
years. This is that time. If there was ever a time for us to collectively come together, this is it.
Simple. Nothing else needs to be said. Be the change you seek to see in this world and
Yes.
do what you would want others to do to you, to them. So, no
Amen.
further ado, y'all.
Mm,
We are
mm.
boozy today. We have growth on the rock, so it's only right that we have a cocktail.
You're
Now, would you
welcome.
like to introduce it? Because you curated this. I allowed Desiree to curate a nice cocktail for this episode, and it's good.
And I wanted you to have like a good time because so with my podcast Growth on the Rocks, I encourage having cocktails while we have conversations. The show is always meant to feel like two friends talking about important topics over drinks. So sometimes we have drinks, sometimes we don't, which is why we say if you want to be sober, it is completely fine. And so I asked you if you had kind of a theme, if there was something you wanted, and you said I like vodka and I like tequila. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I love her. She likes tequila. And then you said pink or purple, and I was like, I got it. So I came up with like this gorgeous Barbie baddie margarita. So we have tequila, preferably a Blanco tequila. Yours is so pretty. I'm so proud of you. We've got a Blanco tequila. We have Chambord, which is a berry liqueur. It's very like a deep purple, super tangy without being too tart, a little bit of simple syrup, lime juice, and then because we're extra, oh, and Cointreau, I almost forgot Cointreau because again, we're extra and we want to be able either Cointreau or Grand Marnier, depending on how, extra you want to be. But because we're super extra and because it is a Barbie podcast,
Come on.
and because it is a baddie Barbie podcast, we do have the option of either putting pink or purple edible glitter in your cocktail. And so that is what you have for your margarita. You're going to shake it really hard, put it over a rocks glass over some ice. And then if you want to, you can do a sugar rim. But then also, I covered my lime slice, I coated it in sugar, and that's what I have as a garnish.
Yes. Now my garnish, I forgot my garnish, y'all. I ain't gonna lie.
That's
But
okay. You got a lot of sugar on your rim. I'm so proud of you.
I have a lot of sugar on my rim. But
Hmm.
this is so
Hmm.
tasty. So I want us to do a little cheers to the audience. And of course, thank you for joining us today. Cannot wait for this conversation. If y'all are sipping water, y'all are joining us in this drink, which will be linked down below. And I will have a cute little drink card on our TikTok and Instagram. So if you want to sip this on a daily, we'll have the recipe.
It
So
smells so yummy.
let's take a sip to so much life
Cheers.
and prosperity.
Cheers, everyone. Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had less Chambord, more tequila in mine. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I had more the Grand Marnier.
Grand Marnier.
Yeah, Grand
Yep.
Marnier. Um,
Yep.
and I had a good amount of
Oh,
the
the Chambord.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Y'all, this is strong.
I will tell you another thing. So, one of the other reasons why I like drinking on the podcast, and I love the fact that I have guests who have been like, I've never done a podcast where they say bring a drink. And more importantly, I felt like the more we were drinking and chatting, the more it just felt real and organic and like a conversation like I would have with my best friends. And so, one of the most impactful conversations I had was with a grief counselor. And she and I are both talking over wine. And so 35 minutes into it, we were just having this conversation about how people really navigate over grief. And so there's just something very communal about having a drink with a friend and being able to open up to them. And that is one of the reasons why I like doing that. It's not just the let's be boozy, let's be fun, let's get crazy and get lit and get in these conversations. No, like having conversations over drinks, sharing drinks together, it is very communal, like sharing food. Our ancestors did the same thing when it came to breaking bread. They did the same thing when it came to creating these beverages. So I like being able to do that. And yeah, as the show progresses and you keep drinking, the conversation flows easier. And that's another reason why we do it.
So we're gonna dive in because I already know it's gonna get real. Y'all, I talk about limiting beliefs all the time, and who else would be better to dive into this topic? Y'all, limiting beliefs will kick your butt. It is absolutely insane how you format these thoughts about yourself that are so false and that they don't even come from you. So I would love to hear your thoughts on limiting beliefs and just how to not so much how to navigate them and get out of them because we're going to ease into that, but just the thoughts on them because it's so fascinating as well.
The one thing you have to remember about limiting beliefs is it's like you said, these are outside thoughts. And for a lot of people, limiting beliefs can come from childhood trauma. They
Mhm.
can come from your environment. They can come from your socioeconomic background. So, and they can also be generational trauma, which people really have to understand and on a whole separate topic, really dive into. So the thing about limiting beliefs is that you 100% can crush and go past whatever limiting beliefs that you have because it's also based on your own narrative. So if I use me, for example, one of the things I grew up with my grandparents, and so they obviously were raising like a young adult at the time. So they treated me basically like a full-on adult when I was relatively young. And something that my grandfather really taught me was you have to understand there's always going to be someone better than you in anything that you do. Not so much work hard, but at the same time, it was no, there's always going to be somebody who's better. So just keep in mind that. And so a big limiting belief for me was there's no point in me pursuing XY dream because there's always going to be someone better. And that limiting belief was instilled into me because of the way my grandfather spoke to me. One very, very specific incident that I can still remember to this day. I remember going to him because there was some organization that was doing a pageant as a fundraiser. And I was like, I want to do it. It's going to cost like $25 to register. There's a talent competition, and I'm a singer by nature. So I was like, if I don't look cute in the dress, that's one thing, but I sure is going to heck pass this talent portion. Like, you're not going to tell me I'm not going to win this. And so I went to him super excited to be able to do this. And he said, why? Someone else will more than likely win anyway. And it devastated me. And it was one of the reasons why I stopped really pursuing anything like that. That type of negative reinforcement was a long lasting limiting belief that I had for years. Desiree, why pursue that job? Desiree, why pursue that role? Desiree, why do that audition? There's always going to be someone better. So the second I realized that that was a limiting belief for me, it then became a matter of, well, how do I change the narrative? I can go to this audition and I can really believe this thing that he told me. Or I can sit there and say, well, what if I actually get the part? What if this is actually meant for me? And I remember an audition that I had in college where I'm gonna be honest with you, I knew I had the part. I basically knew that I just needed to show up, sing, and the part was mine. Y'all, I did not get the part. I got a chorus part. Your girl was disappointed. I was devastated. But then I got to my car and I thought, but that's not the part that's meant for me.
Yes.
That's not what is meant for me. And did I do that choral role and did I kill it? And were people being like, oh my God, Desiree, every time you were on the scene and you sang with such and such, I was like, yes, pull focus, small part, big part. Yes, we're gonna make this little chorus part do what it do, right? Only for me to turn around and the next audition I do get the lead. So you have to understand that you can either have your limiting beliefs cripple you and sit there and say, it doesn't matter. There's no point in me pursuing this. I'm not going to get the part. I'm not going to get this job. There's always going to be somebody better, smarter, richer, prettier, skinnier, younger. Or you can sit there and say, I'm going to understand and recognize that this is a limiting belief, and I have every capability to change the narrative and make it work for me.
Wow, yeah, I resonated with that so much. I had a similar story as well. I'm a singer by nature. Like, I love to sing, I love to dance. Like, I always say, if I could do anything in this world, I'd be a singer. But I also had a story very similar where there was this audition and I wanted to do the singing portion. And my stepdad at the time, he was like, well, you should just do the modeling portion. And it was just like to be in commercials and stuff like that. And he didn't know, but that absolutely crushed me. Like, I just started to really break that limiting belief and understand, like, girl, you can sing. This is something you can do. And this is not like, oh, girl, you can sing a note. Like, no, you actually can pursue this if you want to. And the most thing that was so powerful with your story in my eyes was really seeing it's always in retrospect where you see that it had nothing to do with you because you always had that capability, you always had that power, you always had that magnetism. And it's so crazy how limiting beliefs have this power over you to really make you have a fear of being seen or a fear of putting yourself out there when it's like that's yours already. There, that's yours. That limiting belief came from there was probably an endeavor that he wanted to pursue that didn't work out, or he didn't get the emotional support, he didn't get the financial support for it, or his just mindset is so fixed on this is how you create income and this is what a successful person looks like that led him to say, yeah, no. And it's so crazy. I also want everyone listening to understand this is why you have conversations with people because we did not say that beforehand. Like I had to keep muting myself because I didn't want to like talk over her because I was like, oh my god, this is resonating so much. But it's so the saddest part about limiting beliefs is it hurts the person so much, but the person who put that on you, they have no effect.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. And it's not that they don't care in a way of like I don't care. It's just so it's just so automatic for them. They don't know and they don't see it, or they see it so much that they don't think, they would rather you take the easy way.
Yeah, it's
It,
absolutely true.
it's hard to navigate that. But the biggest thing I'd say about limiting beliefs is back to fear, false evidence appearing real. If something is for you, it is for you. Like I always
Mm-hmm.
use this example on myself. Like I'm a big foodie, but I don't have a desire to cook. I don't have a desire to be a chef and have a restaurant and I'm cooking for everyone, but I enjoy food. But now somebody else is gonna also enjoy food, but want to be a chef and want everyone to eat their curated food, etc. But they're too different. And I say that example to say we all have our own path in life and we all have what resonates with us for a reason, or there wouldn't be different fields.
Mm.
So with us, I'm sure we're meant to be singers. I'm sure we're meant to use our voice, which we're using in a different form. I feel like that's self-explanatory. I don't have to explain
It
anything.
is, yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. And I want people to really understand that it's just like you said. A lot of times, especially if your limiting beliefs are imposed by someone else, that is a reflection of their own insecurity and their own past trauma and issues. So it was ironic that my grandfather really put all those things on me because he himself was an insanely accomplished, well-known jazz pianist.
Mm,
I think looking back at it, however, it was maybe his way of dissuading me from going down a road that he himself knew would be difficult and challenging. Because I'm not gonna lie, there was a long time when I was like in middle school and high school going into college where I was like, that's all I want to do is I want to be on stage. I years ago there was a TV show called In Living Color, which you
yep.
probably know.
Yeah.
But then about 10 to 15 years later, they attempted to bring it back and there were auditions for it. And so I remember I was like, I want to audition for this and all this other stuff. I remember being in high school and my dream was to audition for SNL. Because as much as I'm a singer, I'm also just, from what I've been told, inherently funny. I'm just a black woman with a big mouth. Honestly, I think that's what it is. And so apparently that's funny. And so I always had that desire to do this, but he never wanted me to go that route. He very much wanted me to focus on my academics, focus on school. In retrospect, I'm obviously glad that he was like that because school is a very big deal for me. Your girl has degrees on top of degrees on top of
Yep.
certifications on top of certifications. Because the old adage is true, when a black woman is bored, we go to school. And so your girls got degrees on top of certifications, on top of accreditations. I am not in any way saying anything negative about that. But I do question sometimes if I were to defy him and do the thing that I really wanted to do, how would our dynamic have changed? And so it's ironic that he did kind of push me that direction. And it did instill such a really dark, limiting belief of not being good enough and being
Yeah.
seen as authentically me. But it did take time. And so now I am a performer and a podcaster. And like you said, I'm now using my voice as a podcaster and as a coach, and I couldn't be happier.
I think another really big thing that, as you were talking, I was like, wow, people don't talk about limiting beliefs are directly correlated with sacredcy.
Mm,
It's directly correlated with thinking that there is not enough space, that there is lack, and that it can't go in your way. So thinking in that nature and understanding, okay, this is sacredcy. This isn't really real. We live in a world where people are getting their dreams every day. Why is it just you that aren't not getting it? Why are you the
mm,
only one that's not getting it? And this is why self-help and personal development is so important, because sometimes you have to get yourself out of your head and understand, okay, this is just me. And then the trickle of those limiting beliefs, the not feeling worthy. Now in relationships, you're a little hesitant. Now in actual academics, you're me, crossing out the right answer because you're second guessing yourself, is circling the wrong one. And then you see the test and it was the right answer always. And
mhm.
we can keep going on with little explanations, big explanations, but the baseline is trusting yourself,
Absolutely.
trusting your instinct, and understanding you were given your stuff for a reason. There is nothing that you're thinking that I'm thinking right now. We're still thinking two different ways, and we're processing
Mm,
two different ways as well. And it is a disservice because a lot of people don't pursue their dreams, or they get themselves in unfortunate situations, undesirable situations from these limiting beliefs. But I think the more people talk about limiting beliefs and make this a normal conversation, people can pull away from it,
absolutely.
because it's literally not real. Like, it's legit. I'm telling you, whoever's listening, I'm telling myself, there's no limit to what you can achieve. There's no such thing as a limiting belief, because there's no limit. If there was a limit, we wouldn't have quantum physics. If there was a limit, we wouldn't have people who have near death experiences still be alive. If there was a limit, we wouldn't have billionaires. So why is it the question I would pose for people is, why do you think everyone else but not you?
Mm,
And I know for me personally, in my journey, I had to ask myself that. Why everyone else and not you?
mhm.
Why for you it has to be a but? Why for you it has to be a reasoning of why it can't work? And we could go, obviously being black, another,
Oh Lord. That's
but
a whole nother conversation for another day.
yeah, so that just also brings in another facet to it. But then it's also like, okay, we can put an argumentative sake. Everyone has that extra layer in
Mm,
some sense or form. It's all perspective. Life is subjective for a reason. I love limiting beliefs. I absolutely love the topic of limiting beliefs because it's really beyond fascinating.
mhm. It really is. And once you really tackle it, you will be able to open so many doors.
And the thing about it with limiting beliefs, which is kind of like steering us in a little bit of a different direction, but with quantum leaping, that's been trending and a lot of people are talking about, that has always existed. We just haven't had it as capitalized as it is now because of social media.
Hmm.
And I would love to hear your thoughts about quantum leaping as well. But quantum leaping, in my eyes, is just really understanding limiting beliefs don't exist. Once you
Hmm.
immediately shift that identity and shift to seeing you're worthy, or shift to seeing this is already mine, you're saying you're quantum leaping, but in actual reality, you're just stepping into what you already had.
I always like to look at it. I break it down a lot in my own coaching system where I talk about living as the most ideal version of you. And so I made a TikTok where I was like, I'm a huge fan of Joe Dispenza, but sometimes Joe Dispenza makes my head hurt because I don't feel like I'm intelligent enough to understand him. So someone please explain to me quantum leaping as if I am a child. And so I remember I even went to Chat GPT and I was like, explain it to me as if I'm a first grader. And I will always say, if you ever find yourself, especially in a topic like quantum leaping and things of that nature related to manifestation, and you don't get it, just ask ChatGPT to talk to you like you're a kid. And it did this great analogy about a playground, and I was like, oh my God, I totally get it. But at least for me, the way I resonate with quantum leaping, and it's a practice I try to do nightly. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I do this every night. I try to do it nightly. But what I like to do as I'm going to bed is I like to mentally go in my head as if I've done the entire day as the most ideal version of me.
Yes.
So as I'm going to bed, I'm like, okay, Desiree, the personal development coach, the TED Talk speaker, the New York Times bestselling author. You just had XYZ kind of day and you're now going to bed and you're putting your head on your pillow. And I try to do this routine of I am now, this is my actual bed. So I'm heads on the pillow, I'm going to bed, covers up, electric blanket, digging in there, go,
Cozy.
getting all cozy, purr. Um, and I sit there and I start visualizing in my head a lot of details of what the ideal version of me's that day would be like. When you get to a feeling state,
Yes.
which anyone
Love
who
it.
tells you about quantum leaping, manifestation, if you're a big fan of Neville Goddard, anyone would tell you it is important to get to that feeling state. And I love doing this. And Neville talks about this in detail, especially when you're going to bed, because then you get into this nice REM sleep. Your subconscious starts waking up and is like, what kind of thoughts are you giving me? Not the thoughts of, I need to go to the grocery store and this is what I have to do tomorrow and I need to call this person. Not those thoughts, because those thoughts are going to drive you crazy and which will result in making you have a difficult time to go to sleep. So rather than that, why don't you give yourself these nice thoughts of what is the most ideal version of me doing right now? I'm going to bed after doing two amazing podcasts. I'm going to bed after having a really, really great coaching session. I'm going to bed after a day where I negotiated a $20,000 brand deal.
Come
I'm
on.
going, I'm going to bed after I got my mom these amazing concert tickets to see Patti LaBelle because Patti LaBelle is on her bucket list and she would die to see her. I'm going to bed after I have made a donation to this really great cause. I'm going to bed after I woke up in the morning and had a really great Pilates session. I'm going to bed in this house that I have paid for that is now under my name, where I have a roof over my head, where my car is paid for. I'm going to bed in a body that is strong, in a body that is healthy, in a body that is getting love, in a body that is receiving love, in a body that is abundant and is constantly healing. And you start giving yourself these thoughts as you're drifting off to sleep. And for me, that's how I resonate with quantum leaping. Because what happens is when you start feeding your thoughts that direction, your thoughts do not have any indication that what you're thinking is not real or if it's real or not. Your thoughts will start acting as if those are real thoughts, and your body will start being a reflection of it. One of the biggest examples I can give about that is I've started to get into EFT, which is electric frequency tapping. And so
Ah,
I've started to get into
you're,
EFT tapping, right?
you're resonating with me so much right
So
now.
I've started to get into tapping after being in denial about tapping for years. And I would do this on moments where I felt really anxious. And I was like, what is the most ideal version of me doing in this situation? She's not feeling this way. So that's what I do. And so whenever I try to do my tapping practices, I start to think to myself, well, the ideal version of Desiree might feel anxious right now. But the most ideal and gracious and happy version of Desiree is totally in control of the situation. And so it's these practices that for me really make me feel attuned to quantum leaping because the more I do it, the more those opportunities become reality. The more the conversations line up, the more I find those people in my life, the more the brand deals come in, the more the podcast guests that I've had people on my podcast that I never in a million years thought I would get just because I have delusional confidence in myself, but because also the most ideal version of Desiree, of course, gets these people on her podcast. What are you talking about? Of course she does. So we crush that limiting belief that we can't do it, and we quantum leap into the most ideal version of you to be able to make those thoughts your reality.
Whew, that was so. I feel like this is an I told you so moment to my listeners.
I told
I
you.
told y'all so. I did not. I swear, if I can share my screen and share the outline we discussed, y'all heard it first. I said we're gonna go a little off track. We did not discuss this. I have several episodes talking about Neville Goddard and living in the end. This is
Love me some Neville Goddard. If you're not on your Neville Goddard, you can't talk to me.
No, like if you have to under it's a different way of thinking. And on top of that, such an empowering way of thinking. A lot
Hmm.
of people don't realize, and then I'm gonna get back to Neville Goddard, but a lot of people don't realize what this journey and the quantum leaping, the personal development, and coming your higher self, it is the purest form of empowerment. How
Hmm.
can you not want that? How can you not
Hmm.
crave that? How can you not desire that? Now, is it going to be easy? In perspective, it can be hard or it can be easy. Now, with Neville Goddard's teaching, everybody says it's as hard as you make it.
Oh, true.
If you stick to your, what is he called? I think he's called sleep diet, mental diets. If you stick
Hmm.
to your mental diets, only speak positively, you sleep with affirmations on at night, you do the exactly what Desiree said. Think of your ideal self before you go to sleep. There's also another version he says of telling your telling your day back to yourself so you can gain control over your mind, and then you can start to put those puzzle pieces kind of the same way of doing your ideal self, but a little different to help train yourself if you can't sit there and be calm enough to do that. All of these methods not only work, but they're truth. There's truth to it. And which is why I'm so happy you said that. And we literally did not speak about Neville
No.
at all. So I feel even affirmed and just like I'm on the right path. It's not an easy process, but it's a process that takes a lot of self-control. But it's self-control for the better, and it's self-control for understanding, okay, what is more important to me? Being comfortable or fighting for that future life?
Mm.
Fighting for that higher life, fighting for who I'm supposed to be, not who I want to be. That's something that I've been telling myself subconsciously. It's not who you want to be, it's who you're supposed to be, because that ideal version of yourself is there. Who you want to be is fair. It's a start, it's a base, but you could be underselling yourself.
Hmm.
And that's why I love Neville's teaching of living in the end, because it allows you to take control of your life in that moment and allow source, God, universe, whatever resonates with you, to take control over your life and help steer you in the direction to get you to where you're supposed to be. Where you're supposed to be and what you want to be are very close most of the time, but we limit ourselves because we have a human brain. We can't understand. And to give a quick pin, as I'm learning a lot about Pan African history and more African American history, Neville's mentor was Abdullah,
Hmm.
the black man, y'all. This was
During Black History Month.
this was a black man, y'all. I'm telling you, Neville's teachings can be a little hard to understand at first if you're not at that frequency or you're not at that level. There's so many audiobooks, there's so many people that explain it. Like that perspective will help you so much. Joe Dispenza, like she said, it's a little complicated, but helpful. And as well as there's another one, Joseph Murphy is another
Hmm.
good one as well. So I gave those three names because you see that this is real. This is a real life personal development coach who she believes in these authors. She respects these authors. She uses their practices. There's no excuse.
There really isn't.
There's
And
no
then
excuse. I don't know what else to say.
there really isn't. And kind of the whole living as if and living at the end, there is something I can't really talk about it in detail yet officially, but I manifested the largest thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life. And the entire process of how it came to be, there were so many little things of, well, are you sure? And is this going to happen? And what about this and this and this? And so again, once once I'm able to be able to discuss it, I can't wait to be able to come back and talk to you about it in detail. Um, but it's also something that I can't wait to be able to really go in detail about because at the end of the day, the biggest thing that helped me manifest this thing, and it truly is astounding what I was able to manifest. The biggest thing that helped me was all I focused on was the end result.
Oh, I
That was it.
cannot wait to hear your testimony.
That was it. And so what was also really interesting was throughout this process, and this process was a process that took several months. Throughout this process, there were so many people that were like, well, are you sure? What if it doesn't work out? And every single time people said that, I was like, but it does work out. Not that it will work out.
Yes.
It does work out. All I ever saw was the goal that I had in mind. That was it. There was no doubt. I had this delusional level of confidence the entire process. And then we get to the end and I'm just like, okay, because it works out. This is meant for me. And it wasn't arrogant. I wasn't being pushy. I wasn't coming from an area of desperation, like, oh my gosh, I really want it. No, there was ease to it.
Yes,
There
it's
was ease
supposed to
because
feel
I
good.
knew it felt good and I knew things were aligned. And so when everything did work out at the end, I sat with this amazing realization of, so that was all I had to do. I had to let go, which is the hardest part for people. And I still struggle with that. But the thing that helped me was this beautiful level of comfort.
Mm.
I just knew. And I had that level of comfort because I let nothing tell me otherwise. Not my family, not my fiance, not my friends, not the people I worked with at the time. No, because it's mine.
Yes.
This victory is mine. And so when it did happen, it was the most beautiful I told you so moment of my entire life.
Yes.
So when everything comes to fruition, I can't wait to be able to call you and be like, all right, so this is exactly how I manifested this. But the way it all lined up really goes back to Neville's biggest principle, which is living as if and then feeling it. Because when
Yes.
I tell you, when it came to the final moments of how everything went down, I already knew what it felt like because I already practiced it in my head. I
Yes.
already lived it in my body. I always like to tell people, for me, manifestation. I don't know if this episode was going to be a manifestation of a God episode, but here it is, and this is what happened. For me, I'm a shower girl. I get a lot of inspiration in the shower. I have a lot of conversations in the shower. I feel like I meditate in the shower. And so every time I took a shower, I kept envisioning this one particular moment related to this manifestation. And that's all I kept focusing on. And I focused on the feeling. What would that feel like?
Yes.
What would that feel like to have that phone call and call my mom and be like, Mom, I did it? What would it feel like to go to work the next day and people be like, you really did it? Of course I really did it. I told y'all. And so I focused on the feeling. So when it did in fact happen, guess what? All of those feelings were the same because I already went through it. And my body and my subconscious didn't know the difference between what I was visioning and what I was envisioning and what really happened. Because when it really did happen, I guess my body was like, oh, we've done this before.
Yes. It was
This has already happened. This was already real. So there is power in getting into that feeling moment, and there is power in living in the end. But more importantly, every single time life, a relationship, a family member, or friend sits here and tells you, "Oh, Deja, what are you talking about trying to do a podcast that you get all these particular guests and get into the top 100? What are you even thinking about doing being a guest speaker? What are you even thinking about getting this person on your podcast? What are you even thinking about every single time you have those moments from those people, which you inevitably will have? You have to focus and live in the end where you know without a shadow of doubt what you're meant to do.
that was wow. That was really, really powerful. I do hope that resonated with a lot of people as that resonated with me because it's the control, the releasing the control. Once you release that, it's done. It's like a rocket. It's
It's
like a
a wrap.
slingshot. everything is just going, and you're like, whoa. I've
It's a
definitely
wrap.
had times where I've manifested. Like I can say the last year around this time, I was at my peak, and I'm trying to get there and above it. I think that's the craziest thing about this process is when you go through it once, and I believe Neville says this as well. Like once you go through it once, you're good. You know exactly what to do because you know everything is faith. You know leading up to it, you could have had limiting beliefs, you could have felt to
Mhm.
doubt, you could have listened to other people, but you understood that it was already yours. You understood
Yep.
that where you were already going. And listening to that and listening to those limiting thoughts and that those secrecy thoughts would have never gotten you there. And even if it is yours, but even if it takes a different direction or whatever, it's still yours. It is still your manifestation. It is still your testimony. We think a lot of times this journey is going to be, this is for me as well. We think this journey is going to be very pretty. It's going to be some hard work. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. But the journey is completely different than what you think because there's so many roadblocks that you feel in the moment are roadblocks, but they're actually things carving you for that end state. There's probably
Mhm.
so many things that you went through that process that when you get there and you having it, you know how to navigate it more because now I want to say this very clear. Why I think this method is so powerful is because when you successfully navigate those roadblocks, right? It's like, okay, this was the bare minimum you were thinking in your head. I'm going to give you on top. So now those roadblocks, in air quotes, those character building traits that you went through, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm just trying to push through, I'm just trying to get there. You know, it's already mine, da da da. Then when you get there, you're like, oh my God, this is so much more. And like, now I see why I went through that. And it's hard in the moment to have those candid conversations with yourself to understand, like I see in your video today of when things are, you feel like things are falling apart, but they're actually falling in place. They're building you to where you need to go. And it can be hard sometimes. Sometimes those falls are nasty. They're rough. They're very intimate and vulnerable as well, to just really look in the mirror and say, yeah, I have three times not manifesting this for myself. I have three tires of this, so this is wrong with my car, and I don't have this. My bank account is only has 86 cents, but yeah, I'm a multimillionaire.
Mhm.
It can feel hard too because of imposter syndrome, which we will talk about.
Mhm.
But when you get to that place, you're just like, what was I even worrying about? It becomes
Yeah.
comical, or you don't even remember those times you were sad because that feeling is so powerful. I love the feeling is secret. To be transparent, I mean, I'm very transparent. I'm still learning. Like it's a blessing that this is something that I'm interested in and like I'm diving into and wanting to spread the message to other people because it's a process. You got to do a lot of things and external factors come into play, families, friends, relationships, and I'm in such a area where there's people with such small minds. So, sometimes you got to fight the grain all the time.
Yeah.
um I had just seen a post where it said, don't stop going for what you want because when you get to where you want to go, someone's going to say, I love seeing your journey, or like, how did you get there? How did you keep your resilience? And it's like, don't stop. Don't stop for anything. Just keep pushing, keep going. And it's hard. Like I am the epitome. Both of us are the epitome of things can be hard and there's so many roadblocks that are justified, but understanding that the end goal is so much stronger really helps keep you grounded. And honestly, back to the EFT tapping because that's something we did not talk about either. I love EFT tapping and it is something you have to get used to integrating it in. Like for
Mhm.
me, consistency and discipline is something that I'm really working on. So there's a lot of these practices that I know and I'm trying to like forcefully integrate it. The key with those practices and any nervous system regulation, even if you feel good, you do it.
Mhm.
Even if you feel good, you do it. You don't always have to do it when you're anxious. You don't always have to do it when you're feeling really you need that moment. Taking it every day, like that's something that I really just learned with myself. Like it doesn't always have to be in rough places. Once you build that, just like you said, with living in the end, it becomes natural. Now when you're doing your tapping, you're doing this, you're this, No matter what you're saying, it's so natural, it's flowing through.
I also want people to think about tapping almost like prayer,
Mm,
right? God doesn't necessarily want you to always pray to him when things are going rough. He always wants to also hear your praise when there is victory in your life. And you shouldn't always be that person to be like, short of my bills, Lord, I got rent due and I got to have this taken care of. I just need your help. As much as he wants to be there in that moment for you, he also wants you to be available to say, Lord, I'm so grateful I have a house over my head, a roof over my head right now. Lord, I'm so thank you so much for my health. Even when I'm physically at my worst, I still find a moment to be like, thank you so much. Because I know it can be far worse than what it is. I know that I have an autoimmune disease that has killed people. And truth be told, it very well killed me in the future, but it hasn't killed me now. And for that, I am grateful.
yes.
So if you can also think about tapping, just like you said, where it's not like I'm feeling anxious right now and I need to get out of this mode of anxiety. Find yourself in that moment of things are so great right now.
Oh, when you feel
And
good.
I'm so grateful how things are working out. I'm so grateful for the day that I'm having because the thing is, again, going towards living in the end, when you find yourself in that mode of tapping or in that mode of prayer, when you're giving thanks and gratitude, you are going to get more of that. Because let's look at all the times that you focus on lack and not enough money and not getting the things to work out the way you want it to. And oh my God, and I'm speaking specifically to my girls out there. Why is it this kind of guy? And why is it always the same kind of boy? And why do I always get myself in these relationships? If that's all you're focusing on, rather than, but I'm so grateful for the love that's out there. I had a friend that used to constantly pray this prayer of, I'm so grateful that you are out there, my love, and I cannot wait to be with you.
Yes, my Boaz is out there.
I cannot wait for us to connect. And she would, even when she had bad dates, Lord, I thank you for making sure that this person is not in my life right now, because I know he is out there. So, like you said, don't focus on your tapping practice, your personal development practice, your prayer in a moment of lack. Also focus on those moments where you're grateful for the things that are working out for you. And you in turn will get more of that.
Now, I feel like someone will say, I'll be the
Say it,
first to say,
say it, say
how
it.
can I do this all the time? I don't want to journal. I don't want to this. And
Okay, I'm gonna tell you how you do it because I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't do it all the time.
I
I
don't do
don't
it
do it
all
all the
the time.
time. I don't do it all the time. I started my new year. I got my journal. I did this and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at my previous journal from 2024 and I was like, girl, what are we doing? But here is what I always say. You do it when the spirit moves you, when you have the inspiration. Any practice of personal development should not feel like a chore. You hear people talk about the 3-6-9 method, right? At 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times at night. That is all beautiful and well if that works for you. It does not work for me. I have a life where I don't necessarily have that time. And I also feel like I have undiagnosed ADHD where I just don't have it. But then I also have moments where I'm hyper focused and that's all I really want to do. You have to find the practice that really resonates with you. So if you sit here listening to this going, okay, well, that Desiree girl told me I need a journal. So every single morning, I'm going to write 5 things that I'm grateful for. But then you miss one day and you start hating yourself because you miss one day, then you have completely counteracted everything that whole journaling process was supposed to be about. So instead, focus on the things that make you feel good. Anytime I find myself, and it happens a lot, that I'm walking around doing the most mundane things, making coffee, doing laundry, and I get this overwhelming feeling of this feels good. I lead into it and I'm like, well, thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank this feels good. Thank you so much for this coffee that I
Yeah.
have. Thank you. Because if it feels good, there is something that's happening in your subconscious that's telling you to keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. Because you might think it's mundane, but there is a reason why all of a sudden this feels good. And then in those moments, I might sit there and go, you know what, let me write something down real quick. And again, I'm not much of a journal consistently one kind of person, but I love me some voice notes. Love me some voice notes. So in those moments, I will make a voice note and sit there and I will talk to myself. And I will sit there and talk to myself as if I am the most ideal version of myself. And go back and listen to those voice notes and moments where I'm feeling really low and feeling low vibe and low frequency. So if the 369 method doesn't resonate with you, don't do it. If you find it's hard to journal every single day, don't do it. It's the same thing with working out. You've got to find a practice that works with you and do it in a way that works naturally for you. Because the second it becomes hard work, the second you go, oh man, I gotta shadow work journal, I gotta write my journal entry, then you might as well just give up. Because all you're doing is pouring that negativity and that self-doubt into your practice, and it becomes counterintuitive.
I'm resonating so much. It's just absolutely insane. I'm a voice note girly too, because
I
I've
love me some voice notes.
my voice notes is crazy. Like, and
Mhm.
it's actually crazy because even before I actually like dropped an official podcast episode, maybe I did drop like one or two episodes. I had made myself a guided meditation for when I got
Mm,
overwhelmed. And I always find myself listening to it every once in a blue moon. And it's like, hi, this is your higher self. Everything is okay. Everything is working out for you. You are never in lack. Like just hearing myself back, like I cry because I'm just
mhm,
like, wow, to be this powerful, like look at it that way. Don't look at the journaling, the voice notes, and all of these things as a weakness. Look at it so powerful. You're taking your pain back. You're taking
mhm,
this moment of where you can feel so low and saying, no, I want to feel at least decent. I want to feel good. I want to feel great. And that is such a powerful thing. And it takes time, it takes seasoning, but definitely the voice notes is the easiest things. I got a lot of voice notes in my phone where
I
it's just
love
like,
voice notes. I love them. I really do.
this person made me so mad. And then it's like after I
Mhm.
talk to them, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay now.
And sometimes you need to do those voice notes before you call that person or send that email, and then calm down and listen to the voice note and go, I don't need to call that person. I'm good.
Oh my God, two things I want to say. Actually, I can say the second thing and then it'll go into the first thing. Y'all, the biggest thing is learning to not react. When you react, you
Mm,
show you are not learning. When you
mhm,
react, you show you are not learning. When you react emotionally and you don't regulate yourself, i.e., take a moment to just take some breaths, do EFT tapping, or make a voice memo, voice note. You're showing, oh, you got to give me more tests. You got to give me
mhm,
more lessons. I'm not ready because we often ask for these things, we ask for these tasks, we ask for these end states. And then when we get presented with an issue, a problem, or something that can show our strength, we're like, oh, this is happening. Everything's happening to me. Like, it's very much a shift. And the biggest thing that I would also add to you with like the journaling, the voice memos, and all that stuff, and doing when you feel good is simply concrete word. Your word is concrete. Start to understand everything that comes out of your mouth is concrete. Like I am forcing myself to do that. Like if you say you're gonna go to the gym, I don't care if you have to throw yourself out of the bed. You go to the gym or you stretch a little bit. If you said that you're gonna answer emails immediately, you answer them immediately. Start to get so concrete with the words you say to yourself, where there's no option to just feel anything else.
mhm.
And with having those concrete words, then you'll realize you're not gonna just say anything. Oh my God, I hate my life. Oh my God, I'm so broke. Whoa, I am not. I don't hate my life. Right now, something is undesirable. Right now something is a little off, but when you start to have that mindset of like, okay, everything I'm saying is real, everything I'm saying is coming to fruition, everything I'm saying I also need to align with my actions, it makes a difference. And it
Your
makes
words are powerful, kids.
words are spells, spelling words are spells. And there's so many self-fulfilling prophecies we give ourselves, and I just stop. We have to take a moment to really think about what we're saying sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't realize it because so much is normalized. So much is like, even me, I was a big, oh my God, I hate my life. Girl, stop saying that.
Mm-mm. Then what's going to happen is the universe is going to give you more things to hate about your life.
And
That's all that's going to happen.
to swing it back around a little bit to also give another perspective of what we were talking about, the manifesting. If you know someone who thinks it's mumbo jumbo, or you're still doing your own personal research, really think about what we just said. Words are spells, words are powerful. So if you start making your word concrete, and remember, the subconscious cannot take jokes. So the subconscious is very, very literal. If you say you are broke, your subconscious doesn't know, oh, I just don't have a job at this moment, or I just have to pay for this. It's literally
Your
like, oh,
subconscious thinks you're broke. Yeah.
your subconscious thinks you're broke. So I said that to say you've been manifesting your life to this moment, just not in the way you want it, because you've been saying these things and you've been giving yourself these self-fulfilling prophecies. Like, even when you said that about the hate response to me saying I hate my life, it's like, yeah, I can think of times where I was able to just give it gives you tangible evidence of why you hate your life. It gives you tangible reason to say this is that. Oh my God, I'm not good at math. Okay, now your brain already, when you see something in front of you that's math related, it's already turned off.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you evidence to emphasize that concrete statement you just said. So my challenge to just that thought process is, okay, if we can manifest everything up to this point, why can't we manifest good?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we manifest abundance? Why can't we manifest prosperity, wealth? You can. It's just a shift. And to be honest, I definitely am a very, very big testament of that. I used to be such a negative person, so low vibrational. Good things never happened to me. I just thought I had to be school, 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 good grades, was not worrying about relationships. I had my girlfriends, but I was very one track minded and very negative and very pessimistic. But so much changes when you switch how you talk. And even if you're still learning to, stick to your word and be strong with your word, it changes.
As soon as you understand how powerful your words are, everything will change. Everything in your life will change. And I always like to tell people, like you said, if the idea of manifestation seems too woo-woo for you, sweetie, it's no different from prayer.
Mm,
It is no different. The idea of imagining something and asking the universe is no different from praying and saying, Lord, this is what I wish for. These are, Lord, you know the desires of my heart. It's the exact same concept. The concept of what you're trying to manifest and speaking those things into existence is the same thing that we've been taught as kids in the Bible. And so there are a lot of correlations between the same things, whether it's manifestation, whether it's prayer, whether it's mantra, whether it's meditation. They all really do overlap. And the end result to all of that is if what you are trying to bring into your life is abundance and prosperity, then you need to speak and act that way. That's it.
point blank, period. And with imposter syndrome, we
Mm.
see that is the complete opposite. Now, for me, I have been in my own personal journey very cautious of how I say the devil, because I also don't want to give it so much power. I don't want to say, oh my God, the devil just put this in my. I don't even want to emphasize that and give it any power. I just say this omniscient force.
Mm.
But that omniscient force, the devil or whatever resonates with you, that's how the imposter syndrome is, just them working on that in overtime.
Yep.
In overtime. Everything we just said, they're just providing you evidence with every step of the way. But I know you have a very in-depth, I feel like a little more clear definition of imposter syndrome. So I would please share it with us, because I know I'd be all over the place.
Imposter syndrome is really simple. Imposter syndrome is the worst, most underutilized version of you.
Mm,
It is a version of you that is lacked It is the version of you that lives in scarcity. It is the version of you that lives in doubt. It is also manifested in the people around you. That girlfriend of yours who's always like, you could do that, but why would you do that? That partner in your life that's like, do you really want to start a podcast? Like everybody has a podcast. That family member that comes to you and says, you probably need to go to the gym because you're looking a little thick. All of those things then inherently turns into those negative thoughts, which is where imposter syndrome feeds into. So you can do one of two things. You can listen and fall into the trap that imposter syndrome happens to be in, or you can actually address it head on. I always like to tell people, I was taught this when I was really young by my grandmother when it came to having nightmares. When you have those nightmares, rather than running from it, turn around and look straight at it. And that's exactly what you have to do with imposter syndrome. So when I was younger, I used to always have this dream about a witch. And I want to say it's because they also read me like Hans Christian Andersen. And I don't know why we would read this to children, but anyway. And so it was always like the witch from Hansel and Gretel. But but the witch always looked like my great aunt. So that was weird. But anyway, so it was always this witch that would always chase after me. And I remember saying this to my grandmother, and she said, well, the next time the witch comes to you, turn around and talk to her. And I was like, okay. And so I had the nightmare again. And I turned around and I was like, stop. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And I started having this conversation. And I remember in the dream, the witch became smaller and smaller, and we just started talking. You have to do the same thing with imposter syndrome. Those thoughts are going to happen. It happens inevitably. It happens to me all the time. Desiree, where do you get the balls to go ahead and DM this person to be on your podcast? Your podcast is only but so big. It only has but so many followers. It's barely monetized. All these other things. And then I sit around and I look at that thought and I'm like, but what if I actually get this person on the show? But if I don't get this person, what if I get someone who's bigger? What if I'm able to make a connection that allows me to get someone on this podcast who's bigger than the person that I originally wanted? You have to then look at imposter syndrome straight in its face and address it rather than running away from it in fear. Because that's what imposter syndrome wants you to do. It wants you to run, it wants you to be fearful, it wants you to cower because it's really going to feed off of that. That whole idea of I want to be a beauty influencer, but there's 15 million beauty influencers. And why will anyone resonate with me? Well, the reason why they'll resonate with you is because your audience is out there. Your audience is wanting to see you. You might not know it yet. They might not know it yet, but they won't know it until you make the content. And through the process, you're going to slip and fall. And imposter syndrome is going to say, yeah, but Glorilla over there has like 15 million views and she's doing House Labs makeup reviews, and all of these makeup companies are sending her makeup. That's absolutely true. But there's other people who are still doing the same thing, living the life that they've always wanted to do. And imposter syndrome hits even all of those people. Oprah Winfrey talks about it. Michelle Obama talks about it in detail in her book. If Michelle Obama and Beyonce, the goddess and queen on base internet, can deal with imposter syndrome, then boo boo, so can you.
She gave us a calm read at the end. I don't know if everyone calm
I'm
read
just saying,
calm read at me too, because yeah, I mean, you already know I'm in the beauty realm and like just juggling it, but it is hard. Like I do also like going back to the concrete words, like I also try to refrain myself from saying things are hard because it's just affirming that it's going to be harder.
you're
But
going to get more of being things being hard. Yeah.
in this space, we'll just say it, but subconscious don't take
Mhm.
it. It can be difficult. It can have its own level of challenges. But exactly what you said, it's just you have to look it in the eye. And it goes back to the question of why not you? Why does it have to be someone else? Why do you never win? Why are you never in the lead? And imposter syndrome, it is a lot of purging. It's to me, it's a very intimate process. I like to use the word intimate in an actual way it's supposed to be used because it's so vulnerable. You really have to sit there and just, hi, I know you're in my mind and you don't think I'm worthy enough to do this, but hi, I am. And also
Mhm.
just saying it to yourself when 9 out of 10 times you're not in the position you want to be in. You don't have that audience. You don't have that bank account number, all of these things. And that's why these bigger celebrities that also have imposter syndrome show that there's no limit to it.
Mhm.
So that should also just be a trigger and a beep, 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 beep. It doesn't stop. So learn how to manage it, learn how to go through it, and learn how to work through it because it doesn't stop. Because if your imposter syndrome was so real, then these people at the top wouldn't have it because they already reached it. It was for them if it wasn't for you.
Also, you have to think about it this way. Everybody has to have an origin story.
Mm,
If you watch any movie, it's not like they were born into a multi-million dollar family with the greatest of education and they had a dream of becoming a dancer and they got a full scholarship and they've toured the world and did all of these other things. That does not make a good story. That doesn't make a story that makes you feel for the character and you feel their redemption. What makes you feel it and what resonates with you are those obstacles and challenges because that's what you start rooting for. You root for the person who didn't have the money, that didn't have the education, that let all these outside forces tell you you can't do it, but somehow they made a way. That's the story we want to see. We want to see the underdog win. We want to see the person that didn't get a handout be able to make a multi-million dollar company and take their family from outside of the ghetto. These are the stories we want to see. We want to see a black slave distiller create a liquor that has a legacy so that his great granddaughter one day can be one of the biggest titans in the liquor industry. We didn't want to see how easy that process was because we don't learn from that process. So
mm,
you have to think about it this way. This is all part of your origin story.
mm.
Every single time I get in my head about I wish my podcast was bigger. My podcast just got monetized, and I keep thinking, oh man,
Ah,
I wish I could make more money on my podcast. I sit here and think to myself, I can think that way, or I can also think that in a year, 2 years, 5 years, the podcast is so big that I'm not even doing it because there's a show on Netflix or I'm barely doing it because now I'm doing a book tour. And it all started because I had this little dream and a little cheap $35 microphone that I plugged into my old Apple MacBook Pro that now took me from doing a little podcast in my bedroom to speaking internationally across the globe.
yeah.
All of those difficulties are going to be part of your origin story because if it was easy, you're not going to learn anything. And if it was easy, you're not going to be grateful for it. And if it's easy, you're not going to get value from it.
Yeah. I also really needed to hear that because I have a really, really hard time grasping that. Like, it's for me, I think I'm definitely very prideful. I think just naturally being very hyper independent, being an excelled black woman with academia and just wanting to reach this level of professionalism, you naturally don't want to show your trauma. You don't want to show your weak points. You don't want to always be looked at as the underdog. You just want to be looked at for your accomplishments. And I know for me personally, and I know others struggle with this as well, of just working through that and just saying, like, it doesn't define you. It just shows you where you started. It doesn't make you lesser than a person. It doesn't make you odd or weird. It just makes you you. And I'm still learning that. So I definitely need to hear that. That really resonated with me. And just getting comfortable with it is your story. It is your story. And whenever you decide to get up and write it yourself, it's gonna play out slower than it has to.
Mm.
But no more low vibrations. Okay.
I'm done.
How are we, that wasn't low vibrations, that was just real. But how are we getting out of this? We know it's not easy. We know there's many roadblocks. We know there's a lot of twists and turns, but just what are a few things that you have to say before I get to yapping about just getting over that hump and understanding the process is a processing for a reason and it's getting to you where you need to be.
Ooh, okay. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I talk about this in my coaching series and I call it the tribe of five. So it's based off of the quote that you are representative of the five people you spend the most time with.
Mm.
Okay. So let's toss out if you're married or you live with your partner and your kids, you're spending your most time around your family. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the five people that you spend on a social or professional area, right? So one of the things that I was very intentional about 2025 was that I wanted to increase my tribe of five to be reflective of the person I plan to be. So if I want to be a person who is a multimillionaire, who has her own successful business, who has a highly successful podcast, then those are the people I need to be spending the most time with and taking in the most content. Now, it does not mean that I don't love my girls. I have a group of girlfriends that I absolutely love and adore. But the group of girlfriends that I have is very different from where I want to be in the future. I want to be in the room where people are making those decisions and they're making those impacts in their personal and their professional life. So, one of the biggest things that you can do to get yourself out of that low vibe frequency is get in the space and be around the people that you are trying to emulate. And it is really, really easy. The simplest thing, and I'm not telling you, Desiree, I want to be $1 million investor. And so I need to find someone who's $1 million investor. Sure, you can do that. Absolutely. But let's take a baby step, right? You will hear different versions of this. I've heard so many different videos and TikToks talk about this, but it's really true. One day on a Saturday, on an afternoon, I don't care what it is. I want you to I think it's the tequila talking. I want you to get a or put on a really nice outfit, cute little slacks, cute little top, grab your laptop and go to a really nice hotel or airport or resort bar. I want you to sit there or a coffee shop. I want you to sit there and I want you to work there in that environment for a while. And while you're working in that environment, I want you to stop and I just want you to kind of look around and see how the people are interacting. Get yourself in that environment. And this isn't me telling you that you have to break the bank. No, if depending on where you're at, there should be a hotel that has a bar of some nature that is better than a Chili's that is right around the corner, right? So
Not the
find what that,
East.
but we are not knocking those mozzarella sticks. Okay. Chili's sponsor your girl. But anyway, there's got to be one of those hotels nearby. And if there's not, find one. And it's also the same thing goes for a coffee shop. We're not talking about a Starbucks. We're talking about a nice coffee shop that's going to make a really great latte. And this isn't me telling you that you have to break the bank. I'm just saying, put on something that's nice and get yourself an environment. And then I want you to watch those people. And then if you really want to take it to another level, do that a bit more often and then get the guts to actually walk up to one of those people and just have a conversation with them. And it can always start. And I swear to God, if networking were an Olympic sport, your girl would be taking home gold all day, every day. Networking is one of my favorite things to do. And so, one of the easiest things that you can do, and if you feel really hard to do this, especially as a woman, it starts very simple. Every woman loves compliments. So you find that woman who's up at the bar and she's drinking a martini and she looks like she's deep in work. And when you go up there and you get your tonic water with a slice of lime and a splash of grenadine, which looks like a fancy cocktail, but is really simple, it does not cost you a fortune. When you go and you get that cocktail, you look at her and you say, "Oh my God, I love your perfume. What is that?" I don't care where I am. The second someone gives me any form of compliment, I turn into like a 14-year-old girl and I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. It's Ariana Grande and da 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 da." And then you start having this conversation and then it flows like that. So if you want to really get yourself out of this lack, I don't feel worthy, things aren't going to work out for me, I want you to find a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday brunch or a Friday evening. Find that place, go there, have that cup of coffee, have that tonic water with lime, have that martini, and just sit there and really enjoy the space that you're in. And then to really supercharge that moment, I want you to start talking to yourself as if you're the kind of person who does this on a regular basis. This is me having a martini on a Friday night, and I'm actually just waiting for that client to walk through the door because we're going to go over some branding deals. This is me having brunch with my girlfriends. And as soon as they get here, we have to figure out if we're going to go to Tulum or if we're going to go to Greece. Because one of these girls has to make a decision on where we're going to go. And right now, if we book the Greece trip, we can probably go ahead and get in the Four Seasons sooner. I need to go ahead and get this cocktail to go because I'm actually going to be meeting this really, really great guy that my best friend set me up with. And I know he really wants to go look at this jazz bar that's down the street. So I should probably drink this drink and then probably head home soon because I got a really great feeling that this is going to be a really good date. These are little games you start playing in your head, and the more you do it, the more it seems real, and the more it seems real, the more it happens, and the more it happens. And these situations, these people, and these instances are going to come into your life. And as soon as it happens, you're going to realize that these are not games anymore, but this is in fact your reality. And that is what we want to get you to.
That was $1 million advice. I want, like, that was $1 million advice because it is so true. And there was one thing that you said that I really want to emphasize on. Watch the people around. I just realized that I was actually not as present and really looking at people, looking at their eyes, looking at their face, looking at how they talk, look at how they carry themselves. And it sounds really stupid, but you don't realize sometimes you're just going through life and you're not looking at the big picture, you're just existing. But you need to actually observe and be present. Like, there's being present isn't just showing up. Being present isn't just sitting at that coffee shop and typing up your work. Being present is having a personable demeanor, looking around. This is for me as well because I got bad RBF.
We are Black women. We naturally have bad RBF. I'm so sorry.
Bad
But I will also tell you, as someone who is much older than you, I'm convinced that my RBF is the reason why I look this good. Because I don't go around making like big faces and smiling all the time. And people are always like, how are you 45 years old? And I'm like, yeah, I have zero wrinkles because my
Yeah.
face stays in a sense of like calm and I just don't make don't knock that you have RBF at a young age because I'm telling you at 45, I really think it's actually what helped me.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna keep that in the back of my mind. But yeah, so just having that energy, like, oh, I loved everything you said, and it was just so confirming to me about everything, this whole conversation of the practices I have, the books I'm listening to, the going to the coffee shops, and especially if you live in anywhere you live, all you gotta do, type on Google hotels, put 4 stars and up. I'm gonna pause. Let's get the confusion out the way of how to find the luxury places because
It
people
is not hard.
people don't know.
It's
So
not hard. And don't tell me, well, Desiree, I live in such and such town, and the closest one is 45 minutes away. Well, I guess we're driving 45
and
minutes.
I was just about to say the second part of that is the intention behind it. You know that this is an investment in yourself, and no investment that you ever make in yourself goes without coming back to you. So going to that coffee shop and sadly having to pay $20 or $30, just have yourself comfortable, have some rounds of coffee, maybe a small bite to eat, and you're in an environment with like professionals. It might seem like a lot at first, but when you're immersed in it, it's an energy in there where it's like you don't want
Mhm.
to not do. The
And I
only
will also say, not to cut you off, but I will also
thing,
say that if it's too much to sit here and be like, okay, well, I can't find that coffee shop or I can't find that restaurant bar or that hotel bar. I don't care what industry you're in, there is some form of networking something nearby you.
yeah,
So
no,
go do that. And 9 times out of 10, those things are free. And if they're not free, I love going to Chamber of Commerce events. If they're not free, then find someone who's a member because 9 times out of 10, they can bring some with them for free. And then now you're in the room of people that are making big decisions. Also, especially for my minorities and women, a lot of times those rooms have politicians in them, and you can have those kind of conversations and make those connections. So starting at your little hotel bar or your little coffee shop is step one. So you can get the big girl kind of networking where you find those events that are free. You find those charities and those organizations that have a women after work cocktails and conversation meetup. Girl, go to that. Put on a cute black pencil skirt, a cute white button up. And if you are over the age of 21, you need to go on Canva, make your own personalized business cards, have them ready. It's going to cost you no more than $50, including shipping and handling. Have that in your purse, in your car, in your book bag, and hand those things out like your life depends on it. You will miss 100% of the opportunities in your life if you decide to be a spectator rather than a participant.
Ooh, you're really hitting, it's just bullseye after bullseye after bullseye, because it is the truth. And even with me, I've seen so many opportunities that I missed because I wasn't present, or I was being a spectator, or I did let that now it's the tequila tapping in.
I know. See, that's why I'm like, because you had a bigger glass than me, but then again, I also had like double tequila for mine. So, but also, I feel like when the tequila talks, this is where my big sister energy comes in. It just is
It's
beautiful.
giving that right now, because I was thinking of, that's when your imposter syndrome comes in, when you
Mhm.
live in that spectator energy because you feel like you're not strong enough to lead. But
Mhm.
it's the charisma, and charisma, especially for women, is not that flirty energy, just being so secure in yourself. Sadly, until you get 20, 10, $30,000 and change everything you hate about yourself, this is your life. Like,
But let's look at the people who don't have to do that and love
and that's
themselves.
what I was gonna say. Like, you have to get so secure within yourself because you are enough. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You are enough just how you are. And if there are small things that you feel like you want to whatever, no matter what that is, education, physicalities, just personal development, whatever you feel like you have to work on, at least for me, speaking from experience, waiting for the right time will never come. The right time is now. Waiting to do something later in life, no. The time is now, because you will be a spectator your whole life, and your life will pass you by, and you will be like, wow,
Wow.
I wish I would have just stepped up. I wish I would have just put a little more time in myself. And even in the conversation of going to luxury places or the coffee shops, you have to understand your priorities too. Okay, are you quick to go out with your homegirls and spend a bunch of money, buy a bottle, buy a section, or go out and buy clothes, or, always take yourself out to eat? Like, these now turn into investments in yourself. You have to look at, okay, every place that I walk into, I'm leaving with a connection. I'm leaving with somebody. I'm leaving with some networking connection. Or if not, I'm in a space where the energy is like, I'm getting my work done, because I don't want to just be here looking like, why is she just sitting here? And it is a mindset shift, but it's a mindset shift that is meant for you because you're worthy of that.
Mm.
Your space, you would know what your space is. For some artists, they're going to be in more of a co-working artist space. For entrepreneurs, they're going to be in more entrepreneurial space. Like, you're going to know where you belong,
Mm.
and it's going to feel like home. But you do have to put yourself out there. Like, it's hard sometimes. I'm not going to lie. You got to get used to it. But
It is hard. It really is. But that's why you start with those little baby steps.
mm-hmm, you have to get uncomfortable to, get to where you want to go, because comfortability ain't going to take you to where you want to go.
Mm-mm.
And being comfortable isn't going to get you in front of a multimillionaire that has two successful businesses.
Nope.
Being a multimillionaire is not going to get you in front of somebody that can help you outsource. Being comfortable is not even going to get you to be a multimillionaire, because on a day-to-day basis, you're going to have things that make you feel uncomfortable naturally if you're living in that old belief system, but you know how to manage, you know how to work through it.
Mm.
But while we went through so many things this amazing episode, we went through manifesting 101.
We did.
No one should leave this episode not knowing how to manifesting 101. We talked about imposter syndrome. Networking 101, which was a slide that I didn't know those business cards. I've been saying I need to get all my business cards.
Canva.
Uh, Before we head out, I would love to know any piece of advice. You've given us so much love. Like, I appreciate you so much. But if
Thank
there's
you.
anything you feel like, you really feel like someone needs to hear, or a message you're called to say, or just anything, please feel free.
So I saw this gentleman interviewed on the street, like one of these like Instagram reels that's gone viral. And he said that his father used to tell him when he was a little boy, what would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?
Mm,
What would you dream? So I want you to think about that. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would be that thing? What would you dream? And I don't care how big it is. I know they're somewhere in my mom's house, but I grew up when Oprah started her TV show. You just have post TV show Oprah. I had Oprah starting out. Oprah was fat, then she lost some weight, then she got the weight back again, and then she got on Ozempic. But we're not judging her journey. But I grew up when Oprah was becoming what she is today, and when Oprah became the number one talk show TV host. And for years, when I would journal, I used to always say, I want to meet her, I want to work with her, but I want to have a show like her.
mm,
Didn't know what version of that show it would be, but that's what I always knew. And it never changed for years. And that might seem like a really big dream from a girl from middle Georgia, but I dreamed it and I always focused on some version of that dream. So I don't care how little you want to do this exercise. I just want you to take a moment and think, what would I dream if I knew I didn't fail? And for me, that dream is a New York Times best-selling novel or a book, whatever form, novel, autobiography. It's a top 10 ranked personal development podcast. It's a television show that I've sold to Netflix. It is interviewing and being on panels with people like Oprah, with people like Fawn Weaver, with people like Mandy and Weezy from Decisions. Like it is being in these panels. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I say that one specifically
the
because
fourth wall has broke.
I said that one specifically because I saw your reaction before I even did that. But I say that one specifically because I had the audacity to DM one of the women that's in charge of the Women in Radio conference is happening in Atlanta. And I was like, I know you probably don't know who I am. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'd love to be able to work with you. And Mandy is going to be there. And the other person who is going to be there interviewing people is me. So, what would you do if you dreamed a dream so big that you knew you wouldn't fail? That's what I want you to take away tonight.
Wow, I'm like speechless. I'm actually speechless. Desiree Simone, I can't even give you any outro right now that I feel is even symmetrical to what you have given us this episode. First of all, your time, your energy, your wisdom,
Thank
your
you.
personality. So eternally grateful that you even wanted to be on and you shared this time, because wow, this was valuable so much. I'm going to be even listening back to it because you said so many good things that is just like, wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. Anytime, I'm always happy to come back and I'll make a different cocktail for you.
Yes. And I just want to say, you are an amazing woman. Keep pushing. You will get every
Thank
single thing you
you.
want. It is already yours. The way your energy is, how just I don't know you personally, but your heart, your spirit is just so pure. Everything is already there for you. You're just like literally stepping in the boots every day. Like you're just getting closer and closer to it. And I'm just so excited to get that call from you saying what you manifested, all the other things, and just see you flourish because you so deserve it. You are just such a great human being. And I'm so honored and so blessed to even have been able to spend this time with you. So
And thank you so much, Deja, for having me on this podcast. You DM'd me out of the blue on Instagram, which I always tell people you have to have the delusional sense of confidence to sometimes DM people randomly and say, I like what you do and I want to be able to connect with you. So I can't thank you enough for doing that. I can say all of those same things to you, but what I'm going to say to you is, as someone who is significantly older than you, I see you doing the things that I wish I did when I was your age. And I want you to understand what an amazing opportunity you have right now. I want you to take every single day and realize how eternally grateful and eternally blessed that you are to be doing the things that you're doing right now. That every single episode that you're doing is making an impact in someone's life. And if it's not making a direct impact on someone's life, it's making a direct impact on your life. That every single connection that you're making is going to be able to help a Deja in the future who's going to look back at all these small episodes that she started and realize her growth. Because the journey that you're on right now is such an amazing journey. It's an exciting journey. I want you to get excited every single day. But I also want you to get excited because I want you to see the beauty that you are giving to the world by being your most present self, by being your most authentic self, by being the version of you that you know that you're destined to be. And there are going to be people that are going to criticize you. There are going to be people that are going to talk you out of wanting to do podcast or being a beauty influencer, because they're going to tell you that there's so many other people that are doing the same thing, but there's only one Deja. There is a world that needs to hear your voice. There's a world that needs to see you. Your audience needs you to be present. And you have to remember that there is someone out there who is praying to be able to be connected in the room that you're in, because you are giving a voice to them that they have never had an opportunity to have someone to listen into and resonate with. So I never want you to stop doing what you're doing right now, because it is so, so needed.
yeah, that was a lot. I actually like my eyes got watering. It's hard. Like I'm not gonna drag this anymore, y'all. 'Cause we really had a great episode, but to really close us out, it's hard to do what we're doing. It's very, very hard. We're in a space where it's very can feel very hit or miss, and it's a lot of grind. It's a lot of one woman show, and what you said to me really almost made I was about to start crying because it's hard. Sometimes it can get to that point of like, should I stop? Should I take a break? And just I really appreciate what you said.
You're very
I
welcome.
really do. Please tell the beautiful and abundant people where to
Speak it.
find you, what your program is, everything they need to know about Desiree Simone.
So you can go to my website, which is desiree-simone.com. That's DESIREE-SIMONE. And you can find me on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I am D Simone. I'm also on LinkedIn. So if you go to Desiree Simone, you can find me there. I love being able to connect with people on LinkedIn as well. The YouTube channel is there as well at I am D Simone. It's kind of starting slowly, but that's just because the big transition for 2025 is that you'll get full video episodes of the Growth on the Rocks podcast, and you can listen to Growth on the Rocks every single Sunday on Apple or Spotify.
Wow, yes. She also has a program if you guys are interested as well. That's automatically linked on her website. And of course, everything will be in the description box. I am on my description boxes, y'all. I know. I have
Good job. I'm proud of you.
I have been falling off, but I have slowly been going back and fixing all the description boxes. So her links will be down below to absolutely everything. My links will be down below as well. And I will, because we talked about Neville Goddard so much in this episode, I
Mm,
will be linking my YouTube playlist of must-read self-improvement books that include Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret, as well as a few other of his novels and some other impactful people. This has been a beautiful, abundant episode. I hope you guys are leaving this feeling motivated, feeling powerful, feeling beautiful, feeling like you could take on the absolute world because you can. Because there's no limit. The only limit is your mind, and the only limit is what you put on. Thank you so much, Desiree, again for coming on. And
My pleasure.
this was another episode of Barbie Talks, and I will see you guys later. Bye.